JBN, we keep you informed. I am Michelle Jones, and in the news, police probing shooting death of St. Anne shopkeeper. Police are now piecing clues together to find the killers of a shopkeeper who was shot dead at his business establishment in Quarry, Stairtown in St. Anne on Friday afternoon. He has been identified as 44-year-old Leroy Hepburn, a resident of the community. Police said about 1:40 p.m. Hepburn, who operates a shop at the front of his yard, was at his business place when loud explosions sounding like gunshots were heard coming from the direction of the shop. The police were summoned, and on their arrival, the now deceased was seen on the floor behind the shop counter on his back in a pool of blood. He was suffering from what appeared to be gunshot wounds to the upper body. Police said he was clad in a camouflage t-shirt, grey and black shorts, and a pair of black slippers. No motive has been established for the killing. Men accused of rape and robbery in St. Catherine still on the run. The St. Catherine North Police are still searching for a group of men who escaped a dragnet after allegedly committing acts of robbery, rape, and abduction on Monday. Reports are that about 9:45 p.m., the four victims, 2 males and 2 females, were walking along the roadway in Mendes district in Point Hill in the parish when a grey Toyota Axle motor car drove up and stopped. As the four were about to pass the vehicle, an occupant started asking questions, during which 4 other men reportedly came out of nearby bushes. The men brandished guns and robbed the victims of cell phones and an undetermined sum of cash, the police report. The attackers then told the males to run and forced the woman inside the Axio and drove away. The women were allegedly beaten and forced to perform various sexual acts. The men subsequently drove away, leaving the victims in bushes. The police were alerted, and the team responded and later intercepted the vehicle along the Barry Main Road. However, the men escaped into bushes. The police have seized the car. Man dies under bizarre circumstances in Westmoreland. The Westmoreland police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of a man whose body was found in a neighbor's water tank on Saturday morning. The dead man has been identified as 57-year-old Stedman Barnes of Galloway District in Betheltown, Westmoreland. According to reports, fire was seen coming from the house that Barnes occupied about 2 a.m. Residents indicate that they managed to extinguish the blaze, which was confined to the room that Barnes occupied. They later discovered the body of the deceased in the tank. It was later in the day, about 11 a.m., when firefighters, in a joint effort with the residents and the police, managed to retrieve Barnes' body from the tank. While there is uncertainty as to how Barnes ended up in the tank, speculations run rife that he developed a fright after waking up and finding his clothes ablaze. He then seemingly ran to the concrete edifice to access the water. However, this theory has not been confirmed by the police. A brother of the deceased recalled how they ended up finding Barnes. In room Nepal fire wasn't in there, and after we searched for him we find him up here, so the distraught brother remarked. He explained that his brother lived alone and he had last spoken to him the day before over the phone. He further explained that the family was trying to deal with the sad news. We're trying to cope because we never expect this, he added. He disclosed that he had a close relationship with his brother, who was also a friend with everybody. A jovial film name, he added about Barnes' character. 3rd person dies in St. Anne crash, 10 remain hospitalized. The 3rd person has died as a result of injuries sustained in Friday's 2-vehicle crash along the Lawflands Main Road in St. Anne, bringing the number of fatalities to 3. The identity of the victim has not been released. He reportedly succumbed about 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. A car with 3 fishermen on board reportedly crashed into a bus transporting private security personnel. Walwyn Smith, a fisherman from Stairtown in St. Anne, who was driving the car, was pronounced dead at the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital shortly after. A 2nd person later died. 10 persons from the accident remain in hospital, with 2 in moderate to severe condition, hospital CEO Delroy Morgan said Saturday. The crash happened Friday morning after the car that was traveling eastward to St. Anne's Bay allegedly got out of control and slammed into the bus, which was traveling in the opposite direction. Court orders release of teenage murder suspect. The teenage son of a reputed former New World Order gang leader is to be immediately released from police custody. Chief Parish Judge Chester Cookson Friday morning ordered the police to release the teenager following a habeas corpus application by attorney-at-law Donahue Martin. He was detained on November 5 in relation to a murder. But Martin, during the application, which started last week Friday in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court, told the judge that he is going to give an alibi during the question and answer session, indicating that he was overseas at the time the murder was committed. The teen's father, Horace Ramsey, better known as Pogo or Brownman, was killed by members of the security forces during an alleged shootout on January 7, 2011 in Southside in Kingston. Ramsey's death triggered a protest with residents claiming that he was killed in cold blood while he slept in bed with his girlfriend. Turn in your guns, no extension of firearm amnesty, says PM. Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Friday made an urgent appeal to Jamaicans still in possession of illegal firearms to turn them in, as the gun amnesty granted by the government is set to expire at midnight Saturday, November 19, 2022. Noting that there will be an extension of the amnesty, Holness advised the country that the security forces will thereafter increase their efforts to apprehend gunmen and get illegal firearms off the streets.
The gun amnesty comes to an end tomorrow, Saturday, the 19th of November, at midnight. I am appealing to all Jamaicans, anyone who is in possession of an illegal unregistered firearm or ammunition, to turn them in. I should indicate to Jamaica that upon the expiration of the gun amnesty, there will be no extension. I urge all Jamaicans, anyone in possession of an illegal firearm or ammunition, to utilize the remaining just over 24 hours to turn them in. The security forces will now intensify search operations for guns and the gunmen that possess them. While it is good to take illegal guns off the street, the greater impact on the homicide rate is if the shooters are also caught and arrested. Already, there have been several persons. While it is good to take illegal guns off the street, the greater impact on the homicide rate is if the shooters are also caught and arrested. Already, there have been several persons arrested for illegal possession of firearms under the new Firearm Act, including a teenager. They will face a minimum of 15 years behind bars and possible life in prison. I'm making a solemn and urgent appeal to our young men in particular. Please, I urge you, even at this late stage, turn in the guns. Illegal possession, use, trafficking, or storing of an illegal firearm will effectively end your useful life when you are caught. But it will save the lives of hundreds of innocent and productive Jamaicans. One thing I said, please, I urge you, as your father, as your big brother, turn them in. You have 24 hours left, just over 24 hours left to do so. You have been warned.
The 2-week gun amnesty was implemented after approval of the Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Firearms Amnesty Order 2022 by Parliament. Under the order, illegal firearms may be handed over to a sub-officer or a senior sub-officer on duty at any police station, any designated officer at a firearm licensing authority location, or to an attorney at law on behalf of an individual seeking the amnesty for delivery to the nearest police station. The government has said that the amnesty is a last opportunity for people who hold or are in possession of illegal firearms or ammunition to avoid significant sentences. Breaches of the new Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act 2022, which is now in effect, will result in penalties ranging from 15 years to life imprisonment. Stating that more than 70 weapons have been turned in under the gun amnesty, Holness said he's of the view that there are many people who would want to turn over weapons, but they may be fearful and uncertain. The security forces and the firearms authorities, he said, have conducted the amnesty in an exemplary manner and no guarantees of confidentiality under the amnesty have been breached. Again, I urge anyone with an illegal firearm to turn it in, the Prime Minister said. Attorney Lisa Mae Gordon suspended for 6 months over botched property sale. Attorney at law Lisa Mae Gordon has been suspended from practicing law for 6 months overruling the botched sale of a property in Orange Grove, Trelawney in 2014. A disciplinary panel of the General Legal Counsel JLC handed down the sanction on Saturday. It also ruled that as a condition of being reinstated, Gordon would have to pay $35,000 to Charmaine Bennett and Baron Bennett, the complainants who attempted to buy the property. She is also to pay a legal cost of 200,000 Jamaican dollars. Saturday's decision follows a ruling in October last year that Gordon was guilty of professional misconduct with respect to the way she conducted the conveyancing transaction she acted for the vendor. The sanction hearing was delayed after the lawyer challenged the ruling in the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal, but the efforts to get a judicial review were unsuccessful. The complainants, who did not retain an attorney, paid a total deposit of $35,000 to Gordon. They sought independent legal advice and later discovered that the title to the property was endorsed with a caveat and that a valid title could not be obtained. The transaction fell through, and according to the complainants, they could not locate the vendor or Gordon. Gordon was retained by Howard Jobson, who was a representative and son of the vendor, Kathleen Robinson. After several attempts by the complainants to get a response from Gordon regarding the status of the sale and the whereabouts of Jobson and the vendor, the lawyer indicated she no longer represented the vendor according to a Court of Appeal judgment. Gordon denied owing any legal responsibility to the complainants to refund the money. She said expect for $10,000 deposit, or the funds were paid directly to the vendor by the complainants. That deposit, she said, was paid by her to the vendor at the request of the complainants. The vendor's agent reportedly absconded with the money. The complaint was filed in August 2018. The disciplinary committee found that Gordon failed in her duties to the purchasers, notwithstanding that she was not their attorney at law, and that she acted in a manner contrary to the interests of the purchasers and inevitably to their detriment, while at the same time facilitating the vendor to be unjustly enriched. He said where money is to be paid over to the vendor, the attorney with carriage of sale must have the consent of the purchasers to do so. It said attorneys must also ensure that the money can be refunded to the purchasers if the transaction fails. Gordon was not relieved of those duties by the mere fact that she was not the lawyer for the purchasers, the panel said. And the committee said Gordon's evidence that the title she had been shown by an agent for the vendor did not have the caveat demonstrated that she had failed to do a proper title search before preparing the sales agreements. The chairman, Trevor Hoolin, and fellow attorneys, Annalisa Lindsay and Pierre Rogers, comprised the disciplinary committee. King's Counsel Patrick Foster, who represented the JLC in the High Court, argued that lawyers can be found to be liable for professional misconduct, not only in relation to their clients, but anyone who has been aggrieved. He said it meant that once they have been prejudiced by the attorney's conduct, they can bring complaints. Foster emphasized that the Legal Professional Act was clear on that issue and that there are other court decisions on that point. 12 more perish in motor vehicle crashes, says RSU. 12 more fatalities during the week of November 12 to 18 have pushed to 414 the number of people killed in motor vehicle crashes on Jamaica's roads since the start of the year. The deaths have resulted from 360 fatal crashes, according to the latest statistics released on Friday by the Ministry of Transport's Road Safety Unit, RSU. 2 females were among the latest victims, who also include 3 motorcyclists, 3 passengers of public passenger vehicles, 2 pedestrians, and 2 drivers of private motor cars. Meanwhile, the RSU is reporting that the 3 leading categories for fatalities this year are motorcyclists with 122, pedestrians with 85, and private motor car drivers accounting for 77. Overall, fatal crashes have decreased by 2% since the start of the year, while fatalities have decreased by 1% when compared with a similar period in 2021. The RSU is reporting that pedestrians account for 23% of the road users killed as at November 18. Motorcyclists account for 29%. Private motor vehicle drivers account for 19%, and private motor vehicle passengers account for 14%. The most vulnerable group, pedestrians, pedal cyclists, motorcyclists, and the pillion riders, account for 57% of the road users killed as at November 18, 2022. Males continue to account for 84% of all road deaths in 2021, with females accounting for the remaining 16%. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.